All right, welcome everybody to the pilot episode of the brand new history podcast of Genesee County. Did you know? The history of Genesee County, featuring the staff of the Holland Land Office Museum, yours truly, Ryan Duffy, and our curator, Rachel Bellis, who has some very interesting stories for us today to kick off our inaugural podcast and hopefully get you in the mood for our upcoming exhibit, Crime and Punishment in Genesee County.
Yeah, I have been doing a lot of research into the crimes that have been committed in Genesee County. There's some really interesting, spectacular ones of some really crazy stuff has happened in the county. Not all of them could I include in the exhibit, so I thought I would bring a really fascinating one here today on the podcast so we could talk about it, and so you could get a little taste of what's going to be in the exhibit, and because we've got some crazy stories just like this one.
Well, this sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I know what the topic is, but if you want to share with everybody what we're going to be discussing today.
So we are going to be talking about the Frisch murders. Is that how you pronounce her name? Frisch?
That's how I've always pronounced it. So
Frisch. The year was 1857, I believe, in the town of Alabama. Can you talk about where Alabama is in Genesee County?
So for anybody not familiar with the layout of Genesee County, Alabama is in the northwest corner of the county. It borders the Tonawanda Reservation and the Iroquois Wildlife Refuge. A rural community, just like most of Genesee County. And back in 1856, 57, it was even more rural. So hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of the setting here and Polly's place within the community. So you're dealing with a small, close-knit community in which some terrible acts take place.
Yeah, like you said, very small farming community, so pretty sleepy. Don't usually get several murders. But in this case, in 1857, you do. So we're actually going to start a little bit earlier in our story. The year is 1844. Polly Franklin, as she's known, marries Henry Hogue. She's 19 years old. He's 27. And they settle in Alabama town center in like the town itself. So over the next 10 years, Polly is pregnant pretty much the whole time, pretty much nonstop. One child immediately follows another. She's pregnant with 8 children in a decade. So let's go through like some of those names. 1846, the first child is born. His name is Albert Hogue. Interestingly, Polly gives him the middle name Burden. So maybe wasn't too excited about having kids. We're not sure.
Not sure if that was a family name or
right.
something, but it's not a very kind name to give to a child, I guess, but we'll see.
In 1847, the next child is born, Roself, I think that's how it's pronounced. An old-timey 19th century name, if there ever was one. 1848, Leonard Hogue is born. These 2 children, Roself and Leonard, they don't live very long. In 1848, they both die within 3 weeks of each other.
Wow.
In 1849, the year after 2 of her kids die, Polly gives birth again to her 4th child, Rosalie. 1850, another daughter, Frances, is born. 1852, a daughter, Viola, is born. She also dies, unfortunately, 6 months later. So that's 3 children now that the Hogues have lost. Mm-hmm. But these weren't exactly suspicious at the time. It's the middle of the 1800s. The knowledge about health wasn't the same. Medicine wasn't the same. Children died very regularly, very young.
Yeah, the infant mortality rate was much, much higher than today. So it's not unusual to have children die young and die in quick succession of each other. And it's also not unusual for women to give birth essentially every year over a stretch, as especially those who had large farms, you needed more hands. So they were in sort of the center of town, so maybe that wasn't the case. But world's a little different now than it was back in the 1840s in terms of birthing and all of that. So she was not alone in the sense of having that many kids in a decade, but it is something to point out.
Yes. So in 1855, Polly is pregnant once again. She gives birth, I believe that's Eliza Jane, so another daughter. Henry Hogue, her husband, is a shoemaker by trade. And around this time, 1855, he hires an apprentice named Matthew Bardwell. And Matthew is going to be an interesting part of this story. Hogue also gets sick for the first time in 1855. He is diagnosed by the town doctor with something called cholera morbus, which at the time people believed was caused by eating unripe apple or unripe fruit, or what they called green fruit. And yeah, cholera, again, as you said, in the 1850s, there were a lot more diseases that were very widespread, cholera being one of them. And there are cholera outbreaks in New York State in the 1840s and 50s. However, no recorded instance of a cholera epidemic in Alabama.
Okay.
So, but nevertheless, people think Henry Hogue has cholera.
Okay.
He gets better. He recovers. And he decides in 1856, I'm going to try my hand at farming. He's determined to have a little homestead outside of Alabama, outside of the town center where his family has been living. He rents land from Polly's father.
Okay.
Polly is not happy with this situation. She does not want to move onto a farm. She likes her life in town. She is worried about if the kids get sick or somebody gets sick while they're on the farm, how are we going to get a doctor? We're even farther out of the way.
That seems kind of ironic.
Yeah, that's what she's telling neighbors, and she is telling neighbors a lot. She is telling anyone who will listen, I do not want to go to this farm. I'm super mad. I'm fighting with my husband all the time about this. If he dies, I don't care. I'm so mad. She says that to a neighbor. She's like, and he will die if we move to this farm. She says, because he's ill, if we move to the farm farther away from doctors, he's going to die in 6 months. Mark my words, is what she says.
That sounds very ominous.
It does sound very ominous, but I mean, I guess you could charitably say, if he had been sick already in 1855 with cholera, a wife might be like, what are you doing? We're going to move out where, if you get sick again, what's going to happen then? Mm-hmm. But it does sound, in light of things that transpire afterwards, it does sound very suspicious.
So we have moving, we have marriage troubles, we have death of children. So there's a lot of tension within this relationship.
Exactly.
Between Polly and her husband.
Yes. And she even goes so far as to tell her brother-in-law, George Lester, she's like, we are not sleeping together. We are not intimate. I'm super mad. And the brother-in-law afterwards says, she just had a lot of kids. Maybe she wasn't interested. She'd just given birth to Eliza Jane in January 1955. Maybe she was worried about getting pregnant again. And then she already had 4 kids. Life was not easy in 1855. Women had to do a lot more work.
Yeah. So there probably wasn't enough to go around with more kids. So there's that sort of backstory. But it seemed kind of an abrupt change in lifestyle, which probably led to some of that.
But then something happens in 1956 that makes people think maybe there was another reason. 1856, they're still living in Alabama Town Center right before they moved to the farm. Albert, the oldest child, now 9 years old, he walks in on Polly at the house with the apprentice, Matthew Bardwell.
All right, this story is just getting more and more. It's got everything now. Now we're having extramarital affairs, and with the apprentice, no less, a younger man. So this is getting more and more intriguing.
That's right. He was younger. She was 31, I believe, and he was 22, Matthew Bardwell. So Albert, God love him, he immediately goes to tell Henry, his father. Henry goes back to the house, has words with Matthew, but for some reason, that does not end the relationship. Matthew stays on as an apprentice to Henry Hogue, and we don't really know why. That's never sort of revealed, but...
Well, I'm sure that If he dismissed him, that would probably lead to a lot of questions on why and what happened. So it's probably a way to kind of cover up the transgression and make sure the rest of the community isn't aware of what's going on.
Very true. And also remember, Henry has this plan of, I'm going to move my family out of town soon. Maybe he's like, whatever, we'll get out of town. It'll end this relationship that the apprentice has with my wife.
Sure, that was probably a hope of his. So
yes. So they do go forward with the move, April 1856. They are now a mile and a half out of town on a homestead on land they've rented from Polly's father. Now, in 1856, this is interesting. Polly goes twice to the druggist in town, Mr. Bateman, and she buys arsenic twice. And she buys it, what she tells the druggist, and then his wife, who she buys it from the second time, there are mice and rats at the house, at the homestead. And they're getting into everything, and she needs arsenic to kill them because what she'd been using hadn't been working.
It's sort of a classic 19th century poisoning thing. We have to get poison for pests. And yes, you could go to the pharmacy, the druggist at this time, and just buy arsenic. You could buy high-level poisons without much question, really. Sometimes you had to fill out a form, but most times it was just kind of given without much questioning at all.
Yeah, and she even didn't have to pay for it right away. She said later on, people testify that she did not wish to charge it. She said she would pay for it in a few days. So this is a way of, she didn't want it written down like a receipt of, an IOU. She just promised, I'll pay it soon. Don't put it on, my, what is it called? Like a credit line at the store.
Yeah, she didn't want any documentation of it. It's kind of interesting.
Yes. So that was the first time. She returns a few weeks later and says, I've misplaced the arsenic. I need more.
Great parenting right there.
Yeah. And she even says that her husband did not want her to buy it. He was worried about the kids getting into it. So she tells that to the druggist.
And they still gave it to her.
And they were like, well, here's more. She also, this girl is flapping her gums, let me tell you. She is telling the wife of the druggist that she doesn't think her husband is going to live a year. She says the reason why is that he has a farming accident. He's, plowing the fields. He's using something called a cultivator. It hits a stone, and then it jerks back and hits him in the stomach.
Is this something that happened, or is she, saying it's going to happen?
This had happened. He did get hit by a piece of farming equipment. Whether or not it was as serious as she leads people to believe that's sort of the question.
Okay.
Yeah, so then Henry's in pain. He's in a lot of pain. He starts vomiting blood, and he is really not feeling great. A doctor is called for. The doctor believes it's cholera again.
Okay.
So that's what he's treating. He's thinking, okay, this guy has cholera. So he's giving him medication to treat cholera. The doctor says you need to take brandy. Brandy at the time, I guess, was a medication.
Well, it was often used to help limit ailments, or it was just probably just meant to make him feel better, numb the pain and all that stuff. I mean, that's kind of a common treatment was, just give him some brandy. It was often brandy, but other alcohols as well were used just to calm things down sometimes. No real medicinal benefit, but that was the thought process at the time.
So Polly has her son Albert go out and buy brandy from the druggist. He brings it back. He sees her.
He's 10 years old at this point?
He's about 10, yeah. 9,
Going
10.
out and buying brandy. Again, a different world than what we're used to now.
He sees his mother. When he gets back, he hands her the brandy. He sees her go over to what's called her bandbox. Do you know what this is? I can't remember. I think it's like a woman had like a little box and she would keep sort of sundries in it.
Yeah.
Little money, medicines, things like that, possibly.
Yeah, I think basically be like your purse today.
Right.
Just has all the stuff that you want kind of close at hand, should you need it. So, yeah, something like that.
So Albert sees her go over to her bandbox. She takes something out, a packet of paper. There's powder in it. She dumps that into the brandy, shakes it up, goes into her husband's bedroom, and gives him the brandy. Yeah, so.
It's a little something extra.
Yeah. But maybe still, like, possibly a medicine that she's putting in there. But Albert, smart boy, goes, what'd you just dose that with? And the mother says, Celeritis, right? And Celeritis is, what did we find out it was?
It's basically old-timey baking soda. So it's a leavening agent used in baking and such, but don't know how that would help, with cholera or an ailment, but apparently that was her excuse for that.
Yeah, she tells him she's putting Celeritis in the brandy to sweeten it. But Celeritis, like you said, is a baking soda. It's not a sweetener. So it's a weird thing. Albert is immediately suspicious. This 9-year-old is cottoning on quick.
I feel like he should be the parent in this situation.
He goes over. When she's not around, he goes and digs through her bandbox, and he looks at the powder in the paper. He goes, I don't think this is Celeritis. It looks way different. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty suspicious. So now I think it's like the next day. He's sick, he vomits, he feels a little better, he gets sick again, he vomits, he feels a little, like this goes back and forth for maybe a few days or even like, I think like a few days. So like from hour to hour, he's kind of different. Mm-hmm. Then finally, I think one of the brothers-in-law come to take care of him.
Okay.
And they say he's really sick. They watch him overnight. He's having spasms. He thought, which is like he's having some sort of seizure, basically. He feels sick to his stomach. He tries to vomit. He can't. His tongue is dry. He's delirious. The brother tends to him all night, puts a cool towel on his head, stokes the fire, tries to keep him, warm. He tells later that Henry complained of being very hot inside and cold out. But all of these sort of treatments, all of these sort of taking care of things that the brother-in-law is doing for Henry doesn't work. He dies in the summer of 1856. So immediately after the death, so in the 1800s, didn't really have funeral homes, right? So families had to prepare the bodies, and then they would like lay them out for viewing, right?
Yeah, this is sort of before morticians are a prominent occupation. Most wakes services were held inside the home, usually in a front parlor. That's often why larger homes would have double doors as their front door, so they're called coffin doors, so you could get a coffin in and out. Probably not the case of their home out in the middle of the country in Alabama, but they would have it at home, and people would come to view the body, and then they would take it off to wherever burial place they had picked.
Yeah, so they've done that. They've done that process of cleaning and laying out the body. Immediately, Polly starts talking about what she wants done. So hours after Henry has passed away, she's telling people she wants Matthew Bardwell to take over Hoag's shoemaking business. Actually, she's not saying she wants to. She's saying that was Henry's dying wish. There have been people in and out of the house to see Henry. He's been really sick. Everybody says, I never heard a word of this. Henry has not told, apparently, anyone else he wants Matthew Bardwell, who he knows is his wife's lover, to take over his business.
So she's trying to bring him back into the equation.
Big time. She is showing people his photograph, Matthew Bardwell's photograph, hours. Henry's body is still warm. And she is like, look at this picture. Isn't he cute? Like,
oh, that's, either one way to cover up or not cover up at all.
Yes. She also is like immediately asking, how do I get rid of the farm? How do I get rid of like sell everything off on the farm? How do I like move back into town? Mm-hmm. She's asking people to help her settle the estate the day that Henry is dead, which, I mean, I don't know, in the 1850s, if you were a woman with 4 kids, you were worried about how you were going to pay for things all of a sudden. Yeah, you might want to like figure the stuff out quickly, but with everything else we know, it seems also another point of suspicion. She also, like, in the few days after Henry dies, she mails a letter to Bardwell. And the person that she gives the letter to deliver, she says, please don't tell anybody about this. So.
Another suspicious act.
Yes.
Seems to be adding up here.
Bardwell has moved out of town and is shacking up with another lady. And we don't know because, you know, we don't have a record of it, but he marries that girl and I think he moved to like Medina or something.
Okay.
And yeah, he does not return to Alabama. So he is not interested.
So who's going to take over the shoemaking business now?
Yeah. What's Polly to do? Now we are in August 1856. So I think, yeah, Henry has only died very recently. August 10th, 1856, Polly drops her two of her daughters, Frances and Rosalie, off at a neighbor's house so she can run errands. She picks them up at 2 p.m.
Okay.
She takes them home. She feeds them bread and butter. Takes a little, chunk of bread, slathers some butter on it, gives it to her kids as like a little snack. Mm-hmm. Almost immediately. So what happens there? Rosalie, who's she's older and she's bigger. She only eats half of her little snack. She's like, I'm full. Frances, who's about 6, the younger daughter, she eats all of her bread and butter, and then she sees her sister's half piece laying there, and she goes, ooh, a little extra for me. Eats that too. Very suddenly, very quickly, the 2 girls get sick. Rosalie, they both start vomiting, but Rosalie gets better. Frances does not. Mm-hmm. Well, she vomits, she feels better, she gets sick again. She vomits, she feels better, she gets sick again. Sort of the same pattern we saw with Henry Hogue, right?
Yeah. Seems to be the same description of the illness.
Yeah. Then everyone asks, well, have they eaten green apples? Remember, people think unripe fruit causes cholera at this time. Mm-hmm. Polly says, no, they haven't, which is interesting. Frances is continuing to vomit. Polly keeps feeding her sage tea and I think salt water. I don't know if that was another treatment.
An
old-timey
old remedy.
Treatment. Yeah. She does not call for a doctor, interestingly.
Even though she did for her husband when he was having the same issues.
Correct. So Frances dies August 11th, 1856. She dies the next morning after getting sick. That's around 9 a.m. that she dies. They lay out the body. They prepare the body. They clean it. They lay her out as well, like they did for Henry. Then Polly immediately goes to Batavia from Alabama because she needs to petition for guardianship of her 4 children. Because now that Henry Hogue has died, it doesn't automatically the guardianship doesn't automatically go to the surviving parent. And at this time, children were sort of property, right, of the husband.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always allowed to have the woman be the main caretaker if the husband was not in the picture anymore. Petitioning, yes, to say that she was able to take care of them. Mm-hmm. So that is something that did happen. So that's not out of the ordinary, especially after the death of a husband and father.
What is out of the ordinary, though, is that she does not tell the court that Frances died the day before. She files for guardianship of all 4 children that she has, including Frances, who has now died. Kind of weird.
That's a big oversight.
Around this time, Henry's relatives, uncles and aunts, they come and they collect Rosalie and Albert. They go, we're taking these kids back with us. And we don't know why. There's no record of why they did that. But it's possible that people are starting to get suspicious. They're like, there's been 2 sort of weird deaths right back to back in this family.
So the in-laws are the ones taking first notice of there's something weird going on here. Mm-hmm. Now, who is the 4th child that's still around?
That would be Eliza Jane. Eliza Jane is still a baby. Okay. So there's no relative. That would be too hard for relatives to take on at the time. At least the other kids could, work a little bit.
Sure.
So they leave Eliza Jane with Polly.
Okay.
Which is important. Okay, let's see what happens next. Okay, so Polly has now given up on Matthew Bardwell, it seems.
Well, it seems she gave up on her
long
long before.
She's like, all right, I guess I got to cut my losses here. She goes on to marry a man named Otto Frisch, who's a German immigrant, I want to say. I think she marries him September 1856. So real quick turnaround.
Yeah, not a long mourning period for her.
Not a long mourning period. But again, kind of typical for the time of if a woman could not make her own money, sometimes the only way for financial security was to immediately get married again. Mm-hmm. So not that weird for the time period. What is weird is she goes to a dressmaker to have her wedding dress made. She's saying, like, I could have had Matthew Bardwell if I wanted, to this lady who's like, who? And then she's also saying, I had, a husband and a daughter that died. I have a healthy child, but she's going to die soon too, of the same thing, is what she tells this random dressmaker who doesn't know her.
We have a Nostradamus over here. She's just predicting the future, apparently.
So she says that to the dressmaker. She gets married to Otto Frisch. And so now she has her new husband and her daughter, Eliza. Otto Frisch soon starts getting sick, too. And he goes to the doctor. The doctor does not think it's cholera. He goes, dude, you're being poisoned.
Yeah, we finally get noticing the pattern here. So
correct.
This must be a different doctor than the one who treated Albert,
right?
Or Henry.
Yeah.
A little bit. I think some recognition going on here of things happening. So
the doctor gives Otto the antidote. He takes it. He gets better. He goes, I'm getting out of here. This is nuts. My wife is nuts. I gotta leave. He abandons Polly, runs off to Canada.
Well, I would too. So I don't blame him. Yeah, it's word to the wise: if the first husband dies suspiciously, maybe don't jump into a new relationship. But yeah, I guess he got very wise after his ordeal.
So he's gone. Otto's out of the picture. And also he told a newspaper at the time, and he's like, yeah, my wife's poisoning me. I'm out of here. They print that, but I don't know if anything came of that.
Probably not enough for the authorities to do anything about it at the time. But that is great that he basically said, yes, this is happening. That's why I left.
So now, so now Polly is alone with Eliza Jane, the, 2-year-old daughter, I want to say she is now. But also, interestingly, she has another child. This is between, the child I think is born between when Henry died and she marries Otto Frisch, or maybe really soon after she marries Otto.
Okay.
So, supposedly, Henry's child, another one. This child does not live long. We don't even have a name for that child. Dies pretty quickly. So now it's just Polly and Eliza Jane. Eliza Jane starts getting sick. And because she's so young, it does not take long before Eliza Jane also dies.
It just keeps adding up here.
People in town are talking. They're like, what is going on here? Something's up.
Yeah, especially for everybody to have the same symptoms, or at least, same type of symptoms and going at about the same rate and all of that. Yeah, it's going to get people talking. People are probably already talking, but now it's serious, and people are probably very concerned for what's going on with Polly and her family.
And unfortunately for Polly, her husband, Henry Hoag's, her deceased husband, his cousin, Stanley E. Filkins, has just passed the bar in 1857. And he is like, something is up, and I think this lady killed my cousin. And he's going to go after her. He's ready. He writes a letter to the district attorney being like, something is going on here. And Polly is arrested.
Seems like Polly didn't count on that one for sure.
No. And he's young. He's only 26. So he is a young, new lawyer. He's out for blood. He's ready to go after her. So now we're in, it's 1857. November 9th is the day that Polly Frisch is arrested by Genesee County Sheriff Alvin Pease. She's arrested for the murders of Eliza Jane, Frances Hoag, and her husband, Henry Hoag.
So murder of 2 children and her husband.
Correct. Immediately, so...
Is she charged at all in anything else at this point?
No.
Okay.
Just that. Her family, so her sister and her dad are on her side, and they hire a really good legal team, Wakeman and Bryan, to defend her. So she goes in, so she's in jail now, and she's waiting for a trial. Courtroom, Genesee, so this is the scene, Genesee County Courtroom, the courthouse, which is...
Still standing. The at the break there in Ellicott and Main Street. So that was the courthouse at the time.
So that's the scene. The place is packed. Everyone is like, oh my God, what is this? Side note, she is the first woman of Genesee County to be tried for first-degree murder. What at the time was the punishment for first-degree murder?
If convicted, it was the death penalty. Usually in Genesee County, hanging.
And what would she have been hung on?
The Genesee County gibbet. So if you're not familiar with what a gibbet is, it is a hanging device, not unlike a gallows, but functions somewhat differently. We always get asked about that because this very apparatus is actually on display at the Holland Land Office Museum, so you can come and check it out. But essentially, the rope would be placed around the offender's neck, and a large weight would be dropped, and the rope would go up. And the goal was to snap the person's neck and quickly, but oftentimes they would dangle there and suffocate to death, or strangle to death. So similar to a gallows, but a gallows has a trap door and you fall down. So that's the key difference. A gibbet is really just 3 pieces of timber and an iron weight and a rope. So people, why would they choose that method? Because it was cheap, and they didn't use it very often. In the entire history of Genesee County, it was used 7 times.
Right.
All for the crime of murder.
Correct. So, yes, do stop by the Holland Land Office Museum and see the original gibbet that we have in our collection that Polly was possibly going to face, the exact structure that we still have. So the trial begins. They dig up the bodies of Henry Hoag and the children. They take samples that they send to a doctor to test for arsenic. The first doctor they get is a local guy. He goes, this is not my expertise. I think it's arsenic poisoning. I don't know. So they go, okay, we got to send it to somebody better. They find a guy in Buffalo who works at what would become UB, like at the medical college there. They send him the pieces, and then he tests them. He runs multiple tests, and he says, yes, there is arsenic present. How much? He can't really say. The bodies are kind of decomposed. He's just like, but there is arsenic in these samples. So there's 3 murders, or there's 3 crimes that she's going to go on trial for. Henry Hoag and the 2 children. They decide to try her for Henry Hoag's death first.
Okay.
Unfortunately, just because of, a lot of they can't prove that the arsenic that Henry has in his system is, wasn't just some accidental exposure. They had it for rats on the farm.
So they can't say where it came from other than that it was in his system.
Correct.
And since they don't know the quantity, it's hard to say if it was above a normal level or could be above something that he would have interacted on a regular basis with.
Right. There's also the issue of when the samples came out of the bodies, they just they gave him to a guy to give to the doctor to test. He just kept it at his house for a little bit. And then so the defense is well, it could have been introduced after,
There's too many variables.
Right. If these passed through too many hands, we can't say for sure if the arsenic was in there before or after the samples were moved from the bodies. And that is enough to get Polly off on the murder of Henry Hoag. She is declared not guilty.
Okay.
Because there's just too much uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley is not deterred by this. He goes, we'll get her on one of the other ones. Don't you worry. So they have another trial. This time, this is really interesting. So the doctor who tested the samples from Henry, Francis, and Eliza Jane from the 2 children, he writes a letter being I can't remember which child it was, but this is the one that had more arsenic. I can't tell you how much it was, but this body had more.
Okay.
He's in Vermont at a conference or something. He doesn't have his notes in front of him. He sends that to the district attorney, and they're like, oh, it's Eliza Jane that he's talking about. Wrong. It was Francis.
Okay.
So they do Eliza Jane's trial first, thinking they're we're going to nail her on how much arsenic was in this body. There's no way this kid was taking this much, accidentally exposed to this much arsenic. Well, the doctor gets there, he gets on the stand, he realizes it's for the wrong kid. He's I can't, testify to this because it's not right. And so they're what? She gets off not guilty on Eliza Jane.
Basically due to a mix-up in evidence.
Correct. So that's on the prosecution's fault. That's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
That's their bad. So they're oh, God, all right, now we got to do Francis. They try her again. This is the 3rd trial of this woman. It's been 2 years that she's been locked up in the Genesee County Jail. Okay. Because they just keep needing to retry her. So they're finally, we're going to do Francis. They submit all the evidence. The doctor testifies. He says, yes, there was way too much arsenic in the body. There's no way this was accidental. Mm-hmm. It's a hung jury. They cannot decide whether or not there's enough evidence to convict. They need to have a 4th trial. Nobody is showing up to this one. They're geez, another one? They're tired of it. The town is tired. They don't want to deal.
It's old news at this point.
It's old news. It's not even printed in Batavian newspapers. They're nobody cares. We don't want to talk about this anymore. They have to to get people on the jury that they haven't already had, it takes days. And they're combing the fields for people who have not heard about this story or who have not already testified. Have not been on the jury already. Mm-hmm. So it takes a long time. It's costing the county a fortune to house her in the jail, to, pay everybody. There's a letter from the doctor who did the sampling from UB, and he's you guys owe me a lot of money to the county because they're not even paying him. They're running out of money to prosecute this case. So it's the 4th time. It's now or never. They're doing Francis again.
Okay.
One really interesting key piece of the prosecution is Albert Hogue, Polly's son. He's like, yes, I will be testifying against her. Yes, I will be telling my piece.
Is this the first time he's testifying?
Actually, no. I think he testifies in all of them.
Okay.
He has to be brought in from Michigan, where he's living with his uncle, because he was taken away by a relative, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yep, get me there. Like 4 times he gets in from Michigan, and he is testifying against his mother. He testifies to seeing his mother in bed with Matthew Bardwell. That's how we know that. He testifies to seeing her putting something in the brandy. You know, pretty damning evidence. He's asked, like, what do you think of your mother? And he's like, take her or leave her. He's not happy. He does not have a high opinion of her. He thinks she killed his father and his 2 sisters. He is 12 at this point. Well, it takes 2 years. So he's 12 when he first testifies. He's like 14 when he, like the last time. And every time on cross-examination, they try to be like, your uncle put you up to saying all this. And he's like, nope, this is all me. And he's like, I stand by what I'm saying. Like, and he, at this point, there's a note in a newspaper that's like, this kid has measles. He is like frail. He is sick. And there's lawyers like badgering him, being like, well, your uncle told you to say this. And he's like, absolutely not. He stands firm. Even though he's sick.
Wow.
Yeah. So pretty damning for Polly. But interestingly, a lot of people testify and they're like, when Henry was sick or when these kids were sick, she did not seem like not attentive. She seemed very dutiful. Nobody was like, I was suspicious before I knew, before this case. Everybody who says anything about her is like, she was getting up in the middle of the night to take care of them, blah, 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 giving them medicine dutifully, blah, blah, blah. Interesting point, but...
So she kept up appearances in that regard.
Correct. Yes.
Even though she would tell everybody that her family members were going to die.
Yes. Yes.
Or were always sick.
Yes. Interesting, yeah. So the jury, deliberates. They say she's guilty. 4th time's the charm.
I guess so.
So 4th time's the charm. She is now guilty. She is, sentenced to hang on the gibbet. Yes.
So, but this is just for the murder of Frances. Correct?
Just for the murder of Frances, but it doesn't matter because it was 1st-degree murder. If she killed 1 or 3, it's still the same.
The sentence was going to be the same, but...
Correct. Yes. Except. So it seems like, okay, in a month's time, she's going to be hung or hanged. Except. The jury was supposed to be sequestered in a hotel on Main Street. They are witnessed by multiple people just walking about town in Batavia. They're seen on Ellicott Street. They're seen on Evans Street.
Little lapse of policy here going on.
Yeah, they are touring the town. They're also just hanging out in like the lobby of the hotel they're supposed to be sequestered at, not in like the back room, because they're bored. They want to like see people, and everybody's talking about the murders in this town in Batavia. So they're hearing all sorts of stuff from speculation about it from the townspeople. Also, they go to deliberate in the courtroom where, the trial's been taking place. One of the guys goes up to the judge's desk because he's bored, and he starts flipping through the judge's notes. So they're like, okay, it's declared a mistrial. Yeah.
Couldn't even get it right when we got it right.
Yep. So it's a mistrial. Actually, that might have been, oh, sorry, I might have missed this. I might have mixed that up. It might have been the 3rd that was a mistrial, and then they had to
do it the 4th time?
Yeah, it might have been something like that.
Okay. Still,
like there was so many just procedural mistakes. Like it's like they could have gotten her a lot earlier than they did, but it's because they kept messing up, like the prosecution and like the jury and stuff. So yeah, that's why we had to go through this whole rigmarole for like 2 or 3 years. But at the end, here's what happens. Like she is finally declared guilty, but then immediately the jury that declares her guilty is like, we cannot hang a woman. We cannot be the first people to sentence a woman to be hanged in Genesee County.
Yeah, and pretty much across the state. Executing a woman was a very rare occurrence and hadn't been done for a while up to this point. So there was this outcry saying we can't execute her. There's got to be another recourse for this.
Right. So the jury, they write a petition to the governor asking for mercy. They're asking him to commute her sentence to life imprisonment. And the governor does. She is sentenced to life in prison in Sing Sing, which is upstate New York somewhere?
It's
or Hudson Valley? I don't know.
It's eastern New York.
Yeah. So she goes there. She is incarcerated there for like 30 years. Really long time. You know, she's 30 when she goes in. She's like, for 30 years later, she's like 60. She's been there a real long time. And interestingly enough, I don't feel like this is how it would go these days. They're like, she's an old woman. Who's she going to hurt? She's done her time. The governor pardons her when she's 60. And she gets out of jail.
In between that, doesn't she get sent to an insane asylum?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a penitentiary. It's not exactly a lunatic asylum, but it is like a little bit softer softer than a prison.
Like minimum security, I guess, is a way to put it.
Yeah. And they do think she is insane. Like, at this point, they're like, I mean, it could be that she's just been in prison for 30 years and that can, do a number on a person. But they're like, oh, yeah, she's not all there.
But then we just say, you're no longer a threat to society. Be free. Yeah. That's pretty much what happened. And so she is released. And let me see if I can figure out when. I can't remember. I think I don't have the date for when she was released. I do know, though, she served like 30 years. So we're
long
looking
time.
In late 1880s.
Yes. Maybe early
1890s, yeah.
Yeah. So she's like a 60-something-year-old woman. She is released, and we lose track of Polly Frisch.
Yeah, she just she does come back to the area.
Does she?
But kind of just fades off into the sunset. And
right.
Nobody knows where she goes. No, there's no documentation of her, where she goes, what she does after that. So she kind of becomes a legend in a way because there's no real conclusion to this story. We don't know how the story of Polly Frisch ends.
Right.
But she definitely left her mark on Genesee County and pretty much the legal system as a whole.
Right.
With everything that went on with this case, it is just insane how much happens just within the structural of the case, not just the murders that she committed or that were found to be committed eventually. But the story of Polly Frisch is one of those in Genesee County that I think will just continue to kind of tickle the fancy because so much happened that it fits perfectly in with your modern crime dramas. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see this on something like Law and Order because it's just got so many twists and turns, and probably should be a movie at some point. I think people would definitely go see that. But it's one of our sort of interesting cases dealing with crime and punishment in Genesee County. So it's not featured in the exhibit, but we have plenty of other cases, including information on the actual hangings that took place in Genesee County, the other 7 victims of the noose, but all for the crime of murder, but much more straightforward, it actually turns out, than Polly's case. All gentlemen who were convicted of killing actually just one person, so different than Polly's case, except for maybe the first gentleman, James McLean, who was hanged in 1807. So at the very beginning of the county, he's known as the man who was hanged twice. Hanged twice because, well, he went up twice. He survived the first one somehow, mostly because the rope broke, but they had to string him up again. So just one of those interesting little stories that we have within this exhibit, but in the history of Genesee County, the county gibbet, crime and punishment. It's the darker side of history, but I think always is sometimes more interesting, at least to a lot of people. But well, we hope you enjoyed the pilot episode, the first of our Did You Know Genesee County History podcast. Thank you to Rachel for doing all the research and leading the charge here and putting together the exhibit as well. And thank you to WBTA for allowing us to do this. And we hope to catch you on the next one.
Great. Talk to you next time.